Hey everyone, it's Azora Hype here, and I'm really excited to be here this evening. We have one of the awesome members of the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones community joining us tonight, and his name is Robert in Deep Geek. Would you like to introduce yourself, my lord?
Hey Carl, hey everyone. It's great. It's been a while since I've been on your channel, Carl. It's fantastic to be back. I'm Robert. I'm on In Deep Geek. You can find me on YouTube and all the normal places. So basically, I just do detailed analysis of Game of Thrones and more. Just trying to get into the real meat of it, trying to get a little bit of insight into what's really going on.
Yeah, and he's got some pretty epic series videos on his channel. We're going to get into a little bit of that later, and we're definitely going to be getting into some season 8 stuff. Me and Robert were actually just chatting before we got live on air, and we have some pretty epic stuff to talk about. So hello everyone in the chat. Hope everyone is having a good Monday. And yeah, there's been some pretty interesting news in the Game of Thrones universe at this moment. Obviously, they're going to be doing some filming in Belfast. And it was just announced today, spoilers, that they're in Iceland today in the full middle of winter. So that's really interesting. There's been some photos and whatnot of Kit and Amelia together and all these other people getting together and finally getting ready to basically film the final season of a Game of Thrones. This is really crazy. It's come up so fast. I never thought it would go so fast. But there was an article on Watchers on the Wall the other day where Jason Momoa said season 8 was going to blow everyone's minds. It's going to be the greatest television season out of any show ever. And also that it's possible that there is going to be some dragons in King's Landing. So we talked about this before we got live on air, and there's kind of a few ways it can go. So I want to hear your perspective, Mr. In Deep Geek, on if it's going to be the Night King in King's Landing, burning the streets of King's Landing with Viserion. Is it going to be Daenerys? Is it going to be a dark horse, maybe like Jon Snow on a dragon, because Daenerys might be pregnant? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this one, and everyone in the chat, let us know what you think as well. So what do you think? How do you think this is going to go?
Okay, so I should say, first of all, I don't really get into all of the detail of the set leaks because that way madness lies. Really, it's just let you get. But I'll tell you one thing. I have thought since season 2, probably, that Dany, at some point, she's going to get the dragons and she's just going to firebomb King's Landing. Now, that's for like at least 3 reasons that I can think of at the top of my head. One of them is this has been foreshadowed. First of all, you saw the dragon in Bran's vision. There was a dragon flying over King's Landing. Secondly, think back to the House of the Undying visions. Dany walks into the Red Keep, the Great Hall. You look up, there's no ceiling. There's been some damage done from above. So that's dragon fire hitting it there. If she's still walking around it, then that's her who survived whatever's going on. So I think that's the first thing, foreshadowing. Secondly, she's already said she wants to do this. She said like 2-3 times, she said that she wants to go over to King's Landing and she just burn it to the ground. And that's how she wants to become queen. And the only thing that's been stopping her has been Tyrion, who's been trying to talk her out of it. So the question is, do we think Tyrion is still going to be around there for a long time? Realistically, he's not done his job. We saw this all the way through season 7. He was not doing what she wanted. She was losing interest in his advice, and eventually she was just completely ignoring it. So I'll shut up in just a moment and let you get your thoughts on it. But I think that the moment Tyrion is not there, the moment Dany is free and wants to take King's Landing, the way that she's going to do it is send in the dragons. So if anyone's going to be doing it, it's going to be Dany.
That's a really interesting thought. Like we went back and forth for about 20-30 minutes. We talked about a few different things before we went live on air. And I said, I think it would be really interesting if Dany did it. Possibly maybe Jon dies and she gets in a rage or something. And she's like, okay, this is happening. It could also possibly be that, the Night King loses a dragon and they make it to King's Landing and there's whites and stuff in the street. And that's kind of where like the final battle is going on. There's so many like different scenarios really where they could take it, right? Because The characters have to die, and I think that King's Landing is going to be a spot where a lot of stuff goes down, and you even think that there's not going to be an Iron Throne anymore, which is really interesting because we talked about the House of the Undying before we got live on Iron. I'm like, I don't know, man. Daenerys not touching the Iron Throne and going north beyond the Wall signals to me that her destiny is in the heart of winter with fighting the Night King and possibly losing that. So I don't know, man. Well, what like you think that it could be Jon Snow, maybe though? I mean, Daenerys is gonna be pregnant, right? Like. I don't know. I'm convinced that she's pregnant.
Yes, she may well be pregnant. But let's look at the characters. Out of this, who realistically is going to want to roast the city to the ground? Okay, Jon, is there anything in Jon's background that says he's the kind of guy who roasts the city to the ground? No, nothing at all. The Night King, does he roast cities to the ground? No. He sends in his guys to go in there and then he can raise them from the dead. He doesn't want them turned into ashes. He wants whites that he can raise from the dead. That's what he's wanting. He's not wanting to attack it all from above. Dany said repeatedly and does repeatedly send in the dragons and burn things to the ground. If anyone's going to be burning into the ground, it's Dany.
So here's the interesting thing then, because I think that Daenerys and Jon are going to be going to Winterfell. And that's where we're going to have a big conversation with a lot of people. Jamie's probably going to get there at some point, assuming he has Littlefinger's jetpack. Brienne's there. Davos. Arya is going to be there. Like the main, 15 to 20 characters, the POV characters that I assume are going to be alive in the books as well. Most of them. That's where this congregation is going to happen. And I think they're going to have to make, obviously, a strategy to beat the White Walkers because the wall falling, someone's going to figure it out. Tormund, Beric, whether they survived or not, we'll see that. I'm assuming that we're going to say that's a yes. Then you get some information back to them and say, hey, well, the Night King has a dragon. Hey, guys, So is it possible, though, that what we're going to see is that you're right, and Daenerys conquers King's Landing because they're moving back, like they're retreating from the White Walkers' forces and whatnot. That could be a thing too to kind of create some stability before the final battle. That'd be really interesting because I know some people are of the thought that Cersei might be the last villain of the show. Like there'll be King's Landing and there'll be a battle at the Trident or the Isle of the Faces. Or do you think Cersei dies first before all of this happens? Because I think that she's going to die, right? Like,
yes. Okay. Do you want another long rant?
Yes, okay. Let's hear it. That's what we're here. That's what we're here for.
Okay, so everyone, when they're talking about the endgame and they're quoting George R. Martin, they always say the thing that he says is it's going to be bittersweet. That's the thing that everyone always quotes. But the thing I find really interesting is that's not the only thing he said about the ending. He said that he loves it's the penultimate chapter of the Lord of the Rings. Which is called The Scouring of the Shire. It wasn't in the books, but he loves it, and he says, that is the feeling I want for the last bit of A Song of Ice and Fire. And in that chapter, you get the hobbits, they go back to Hobbiton, and they clear out the last of the bad guys. The big battles have happened, the heroes have done the heroic stuff, the hobbits just go back and just tidy stuff up. So that is going to be the feeling that George R. Martin wants for the end of A Song of Ice and Fire. And for me, that seems like the cripples, bastards, and broken things, not the heroes, not Jon, not Dany. They've done their big thing with the Night King. The cripples, bastards, and broken things are kind of turn around and go, well, what else do we need to do to make this world okay? We need to go to King's Landing, and we need to just make the world a better place. I think that Cersei is going to survive pretty much to the end, and then she's finally going to get taken out.
Oh, whoa. Are you saying that a Cleganebowl is going to go down? Is this your signaling for the Cleganebowl? Because, I mean, to get to Cersei, we have to get rid of the mountain, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of agreeing with you, though. I gotta be honest, Robert. Like, I don't know. I have a feeling people are gonna be pissed about it, but I have a feeling that Cersei is gonna be left after the White Walkers. I don't know. I agree. I have this feeling.
The White Walkers, I think the White Walkers is penultimate episode. So episode 5 of the last season. That's when that's all going to get done. They'll resolve that, however that happens, and then the last episode is tying up all the loose ends of everything else. It's how every season's gone roughly like that anyway, and I think that's how it's going to work out. And I think Cersei will be the thing that needs to be sorted out in the last episode.
I think that's where it's going to. I mean, we've always had the episode 9, you know what I mean? And then obviously the episode 10 is kind of like where we pick up the pieces. And I think we're going to have a situation where we have, you know, either a Samwell or a Tyrion or you know, or maybe Bran narrating from inside the Weirwood net or something, telling a story, you know. I do feel like the Bilbo Baggins stuff is some of George's favorite stuff in Lord of the Rings between Frodo and Bilbo, because you get to see the other side of Bilbo, that sadness as well too. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. We may get a flash forward into the future or something like that. That would be super epic in my opinion. The epilogue of the Dream of Spring, you know, a flash forward or something like that.
I don't want that. I hate, like, the end of Harry Potter when they did like the 20 years later thing. I hated that. It was horrible. Just end the story and be done with it. I don't want to know what happens in 20 years time when they're all old and grey.
So here's my question to you then. We were talking about this earlier. The 5 original people in George's outline were Arya, Bran, Jon, Daenerys, and Tyrion. And what a 6 being Sansa. Do you think that those have changed? I mean, I don't see Jon and Daenerys surviving. I think Daenerys is going to die. I think it's been set up way too much. But what are your thoughts on that too? Because I don't know, man. One person can have Drogon, and I feel like Jon, they're setting up Jon going to have Drogon at some point. You know, like I don't think they could just do that. I don't know. It felt suspect to me. I feel like his connection with Drogon, you know, they say you can only have a bond with your Dragon Rider, and Daenerys and Drogon are obviously linked. And, you know, we're assuming that Jon's going to get Rhaegal. But I don't know, man. Like, I just see Jon taking on the Night King with Drogon. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, in the books at least, I can't see the dragon surviving, I have to say. I think there has to be a balance in the books. I think that the others will be beaten back in some way, and the dragons will go in some way. So, and I think humanity will get a chance to build itself without these opposing forces of fire and ice. I think that's definitely what's going to happen in the books. As for which of those characters survive, I tend to. Jon and Daenerys, I can't see them. If either of them survive, they're going to exile themselves. They're not going to be in power. They're not going to. Daenerys is a conqueror, not a ruler. Jon doesn't want. He never seeks power. He might take it, but he never seeks it. So I can't see them getting it.
That could be a bittersweet thing, though, right? Like Jon having to rule even though he doesn't want to, and like trying to instill what Daenerys wanted. Like, that's kind of a shitty destiny. You know what I mean? I mean, he didn't. I mean, and having to live with that memory of Daenerys every day. You know, I mean, obviously he would still do that. If you lose someone you love, that's still going to happen no matter what. But
yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, if anyone has to sit on there, he's probably as good as you're going to get, because, like, he doesn't want it. He's actually turning into an okay leader. I mean, didn't want to admit this a while ago, but he's doing all right now. But Tyrion, yeah, he'll survive. I love Tyrion. He'll be really, pardon me, he'll be really broken by it, but he'll survive. Sansa will be queen either of the North or of the whole 7 kingdoms. I think she might die, you know, or in the books warg into Nymeria and just like go off and do wolf stuff.
That'd be cool too.
It would. Who else did you ask about?
Good question, man. I was liking your answer so much that I forgot. No, I mean, obviously, you know, Jon and we got Bran, Sansa, Arya, Jon, Daenerys, and Tyrion. Tyrion, I think, 100% survives no matter what. Arya is George's wife's favorite, so I'm assuming that she survives, but that's kind of sketchy with the faceless men and how they operate. So you think that Jon survives then?
I honestly do not know. He might. But if he survives, I can't see him having a happy time. It's just like if he's come back, certainly in the books, if he comes back in the same kind of way with the Beric Dondarrion kind of foreshadowing that he's just going to get unhappier and unhappier. He's going to get more hollowed out as a person. And I can't see him wanting to survive. I really can't. I think that everything about him now is just trying to do the thing he knows he needs to do. And then, certainly on the show, we see he's like suddenly got this, there's a woman I kind of like here. But then when she's gone, what else has he got to live for, really?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to kind of, I mean, he's already lost the greet. For that to happen a second time would just be soul crushing for him. We've had some donations in the chat, Robert. We had $12 from Aaron. She's been a Stark supporter of the channel for quite some time. So thank you so much for that. Hype and love, fire emoji and heart emoji in the chat. We've also have Katrine. She made a donation as well. And then we just had Helena make gin great again. I'm assuming that you're drinking wine or gin and having a great time without me. So thank you so much for that as well. And yeah, Robert, you have some beers, man. I actually tried to get out to the liquor store where they sell craft beers, but we had flash flood warnings here today, man. And I didn't have my car, so I didn't bother venturing out because it was like a little bit far for me to walk and get drenched like that. I would have been in there and been like just completely soaked. So I'll have to live vicariously through all of you for having some drinks. But is that an ale? Nice.
It's I know it's a pale ale.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we have some great craft beers here in Northern Ontario that I really, really enjoy. But yeah, so talking about spreading the love, everyone in the chat, what I would also like you to do, we have 72 people here. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. In actually the description of this video, I put a link for you guys to go subscribe to Indie Geek's channel. I'm sure he can tell you a little bit about his Patreon and stuff after when we get towards the ends at this video. But if you just go into the description of this video and you guys click on the subscribe button, super easy, takes less than 10 seconds. He makes really awesome content. So that would be very cool as well. But let's go back to our conversation, man. I know you kind of don't do the season 8 thing. You're more of a book purist, and I totally respect that. But what are some of the other things that we have to look for? I mean, some people are also saying that this set could possibly be Winterfell, and I think it's a foregone conclusion that the North is going to get overrun at some point. I think it would be really interesting if they're all together and then we have the Night King attack Winterfell with his dragon. That would be really interesting. Obviously, if Daenerys and Jon are there, them having 2 dragons, that would be a pretty crazy scenario. We've already seen Winterfell destroyed once, so I guess I can see it happening again. But what are your thoughts on that? Possibly if this set isn't King's Landing, they pretty much 90% confirmed that it is, but if it's Winterfell as well, because I got to assume that at some point there's going to be some large battle there.
Yeah, I think there will. And I think my general rule in trying to guess what happens in Game of Thrones is that since they've got beyond the books, the showrunners love spectacle. If something looks good, they're going to do it. And the Night King's army attacking Winterfell is going to look great. So I'm absolutely sure that they will do that. But the bit that I'm really looking forward to is actually what I'm sure will be episode 1 of the last season, which is when everybody, as you say, they all descend on Winterfell. And you've got so many of these different things going on all at the same time. You'll have Dany turning up and go, "Hey, I'm your queen, everyone." And Jon saying, "Yeah, she is." And then you've got Bran and Sam saying, "Hang on a moment. So did you know that you're really a Targaryen? And actually you're more." And then the Northern Lords are going to go, "What? You're a Targaryen?" And then Jaime's
we don't trust Targaryen, like Bron Jon.
And Jaime will pitch up and he'll go, "Oh, by the way, Cersei was lying to you back there." And then Tyrion's going to go, "What? So actually, Jon, you're more in line and you're not wanting to burn down cities? Hey, maybe I'll support you." There's so much stuff going on just in that one meeting that it's just going to, that'll take hours just to go all the way through it.
What's interesting too is that for everybody in the chat, we like to get hype. Me and George met Paula Fairfield, who does the sound for Game of Thrones at Con of Thrones. And she said that we're going to have 80 to 90 minute episodes. So we're looking at 6 episodes, but we're really looking at 9 episodes with how much time they're going to be doing, which is pretty crazy, awesome, if you ask me. So this meeting that we're talking about, obviously, you know, Sandor and Arya would be another thing that we might see there. We kind of got the Sandor dad moment with Brienne, like, I'm proud of my girl for being ruthless, and you know, that kind of thing. We got some of those moments sprinkled in, like, a lot of these reunions in season 7, and I'm assuming we're going to get some more in season 8, like, you know, Jaime and Brienne and Jon and Arya, the big ones before people start to go off kind of in their own final directions. But what does everybody think in the chat? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's so hard to say where D&D might go with this. You know, obviously, some people think the books in the show are going to be different. And that's very possible. I think they end up with the same conclusion. But I think we can definitely look forward to Winterfell having a huge battle. And apparently there's going to be like a big battle in each episode or something like that. Like, or at least, you know, like not spoils of war, but I mean, we're definitely going to get some of those moments with the dragons fighting the White Walkers. I mean, how could they not want to do that on television? I mean, I don't think anything like that specifically has happened. Maybe a TV movie might have been exciting, but not this exciting as far as CGI goes, and as far as like the popular culture of dragons and magic and all that kind of shit happening. So it's going to be good, man. I don't know. Now, here's my other question to you, Robert, and the chat. Jason Momoa, he's a pretty cool dude, right? He's good looking. He didn't win Sexiest Man of the Year award. He's Aquaman now. You know, he always comes back to visit people in Belfast and whatnot. You know, the Game of Thrones actors and actresses are all pretty tight. You know, they've become somewhat of a family. You know, they spend quite a bit of time together. But do you believe him? Do you think season 7 is going to be that good? He said it's going to absolutely blow people's minds and be the best season of television ever. I know he could be just hyping it up, but I don't know. I have a pretty good feeling about it. If the budget is what they say it is, if we're getting 90-minute episodes, I mean, 6 movies to end the series. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's going to be epic. It's going to be really good. But I can be reasonably certain on one point. Jason Momoa has not seen the scripts. So they're keeping those scripts so tight. And unless he's in every scene, he does not know everything that's happening. Even the people who are like in odd scenes, they just get the little bit of script that they're in. So he doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. He's not seen it all filmed yet. They've not constructed the sets yet, so he doesn't know. So yes, it's hype, but it will be brilliant. It will be amazing. There will be dragons fighting dragons. There will be like these characters that we've been buying into for so long, just reaching the end of their story. Just like characters. I mean, Theon, just like, hey, is Theon going to like suddenly get some kind of redemption at the end of this? What about Sandor? What's going to happen to him? All these characters that we care about kind of reach some resolution. So yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be brilliant.
You know, $15 million per episode on top of being able to pay the actors, that's a pretty huge thing. And, you know, obviously we're pretty spoiled as far as the locations that they choose for the show. You know, Goss Lugazzi, my friend Patron from Watchers on the Wall, was just there with Luca. They were sending pictures to me, and it's absolutely beautiful there. Dragonstone, for anybody who doesn't, I know what Goss Lugazzi is. Obviously King's Landing and all these different locations. So I'm excited to see what you know, what else we will get that's new in season 8, because, you know, I think maybe House Reed will be important. Hopefully, you know, there's a rumor out there that Mira might not be in season 8, which would be upsetting. I think if we don't get her, we're only getting a flashback of Howland maybe, which would be really upsetting for me, because I feel like he has to be the third person in the equation with Bran, Samwell, to kind of confirm that Jon is who he says he is. There's all sorts of things that got to happen. So I don't know. What do you think is the dark horse thing that's going to surprise us, though? I mean, all of us together, we chat, like me and you, we chat privately in the chat. I'm sure all of you chat together and hypothesize about these things. What's going to shock us, though? That's the thing.
Well, what's going to shock us are 2 things. Firstly, who dies? Because I think last season we knew roughly who was going to die, just because that Littlefinger story was starting to come to an end. This time, anyone could die. And all of these characters, like characters that I just think they don't deserve in any way to die. could die. Like Davos, there's no way. I so don't want him to die, but he could die. Sam should not die, but what he could do, because it's the end of the story. There were like all these characters that, you know, if they want to just be really annoying about it, they could kill off characters. So that, I think that's the first one. And the second one is that the big unanswered question is what on earth the White Walkers are wanting, and what's the backstory there? Because it's the thing that we talk around and around and around, and we haven't yet got a clear answer on what it is that they want and what the end result is going to be. Certainly in the books, I don't think it's going to be a big battle that they suddenly get killed and that's it. I think there's going to be a lot more of this kind of conciliation idea with Jon being like the balance between ice and fire. I hope they take a bit of that over into the TV show. I don't know. But what is it that the bit of information we do not yet have, what do they actually want? Is it just killing lots of people? I hope not, because that would be a bit boring.
I agree. I mean, I'm hoping, and I've been talking about this. I talked about this in my recent video, that we might get a backstory about who the Night King was, because old man says it was a Bolton or a Stark or a Hornfoot or a Hornwood. Sorry, I might be screwing that up. Geez, I need to brush up on the books again. It's been like a while. But and then there's some people think that it's Bran the Builder and all that. I think that it's funny. I think that they're going to humanize the White Walkers, because they were dehumanized essentially by the Children of the Forest, made into a weapon for them. But I think they're gonna humanize the White Walkers to make us feel this sort of empathy, this sort of these feelings of sadness for them, because they essentially did have their lives taken away. So I think we will get their more of their motivations, like you said, and I think it's going to get pretty crazy. I'm hoping that they don't do a whole time paradox thing. Some people think it's going to end with a crazy twist with Bran. I'm really not hoping for that. I think that I don't want to say it would be confusing for some people, but it would. You know what I mean? Like the concept of time and time paradoxes and all these kinds of things. But I think we're gonna get a whole lot from Bran, man. I think we're gonna see some flashbacks and possibly a flash forward. I don't know. I just have this gut feeling.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that the key thing George R.R. Martin says, I mean, it's one of his favorite phrases, is everyone's a hero in their own story. No one wakes up thinking, I think I'm going to be the bad guy today. Everyone thinks that they're right for whatever reason. They feel they're justified in their actions because that's how we exist. And I think the Night King, the others, the White Walkers, they're exactly the same. They don't think they're the bad guys in this. They think they're entirely justified. They think that they've got a reason for doing what they're doing. And I think we're going to find out what that is in season 8.
Like the other day, I don't like usually getting into Twitter wars, but there's a controversy, and I play Magic the Gathering, and there's a YouTuber that's been harassing other content creators, and he's basically borderline racist. And I was having a discussion with someone online, and they were racist. And from their opinion, it seems like they feel like they're right? So so I was having a discussion with some people that kind of couldn't quite see from outside of their perspective. And I think we might get a few characters that Cersei is going to get to that point where I think she's paranoid and she'll lock herself in King's Landing and she won't be able to see outside of her small perspective because of what's happened to her. Obviously, she has lost all her children and whatnot, and the person that cared for her the most, and Jaime, I think they're done. Officially, hopefully. Jaime, please don't. But yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to be surprised by something with Bran for sure. And I don't know. Jon and Daenerys, I hope they don't both bite the dust, but I got a pretty bad feeling, the history could repeat itself like Rhaegar and Lyanna. I don't know.
Well, what I hope with Jaime is, and it would kind of work well in a kind of a balance, is that in his past, everyone hated on him for an incredibly brave and good act that he did. And I wonder whether that's going to get flipped around and everyone's going to love him for something that he does that perhaps wasn't that great or brave. And so I think that he's going to end up getting credit for something that actually he shouldn't have got credit for.
Okay, let's. I mean, is this something that you want to talk about in a future video? So you don't want to spoil it. I'm really curious now because Jaime's one of my 5 favorite characters. So,
yeah, I mean, I haven't developed that thought at all. I mean, but the characters, the way George R.R. Martin treats them, he wants them to have some kind of arc, and he wants them to have some kind of resolution to where they are. And what Jaime's character, the starting point we have for him, is that his entire character, who he was based on the fact that people viewed him as something that he wasn't, and so he became the thing that they wanted him to be. So he thought of himself as a good person. He saved thousands of people in King's Landing by killing the king. But actually all that happened was everybody says, you're a kingslayer, you betrayed your oath, you're an oath breaker, and all the rest of it. And he then had to, because everyone said it to him, that's the person that he became, rather than this honorable person who saves people. So I wonder whether at the end he gets some kind of recognition for something that perhaps he doesn't deserve as much. Maybe the greatest thing he did still goes unrecognized. I don't know. It's just a half thought I've got.
We got some people discussing in the chat. I think we could probably move to more of a Q&A period now because it seems like people want to ask us some questions. But some people are asking, Kyle and Robert, do you think, are you okay with D&D directing the final episode, the finale? And I'm going to say yes, because they have people like Miguel Sapochnik who are going to be there for the whole final season, man. And they want to make this as epic as possible. Obviously, they've already got quite an amount of accolades. Like Game of Thrones has won a ridiculous amount of awards. They do receive a lot of criticism. I think, obviously, some people didn't like season 7's writing as much, and people enjoyed the earlier seasons. Some people are more book purists and whatnot. I can totally understand why people like that. But for my personal opinion, man, I think that the writing is going to be more similar to season 1 because there's not the pressure of having to basically navigate the next 4 or 5 seasons. There's only one more season for them, So I think it's going to be a little bit different in that respect, where things can flow a little bit more organically. And I personally believe that the books and the show are going to end up at the same point. I think that Daenerys is going to die, and the situation is going to happen again where Jon's going to raise their child, and it's going to be like him feeling like Ned and understanding the big sacrifice that Ned made and that Rhaegar made to protect him. And then, he'll be king and he won't be happy. That's my prediction, but that's what I think. Robert, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so D&D get a lot of bad press, and I completely understand it. I've got lots of rants I could give you about the writing in season 7 and season 6, and a bit of season 5 as well. But I've come to the point where I think, you know what, this has changed. It's not what it was originally. What it was originally was actually, if you look at book 1, season 1, a really quite faithful adaptation of a book. That's what it was. They were putting down, it was almost scene for scene what happened in the book. The further in they've got, they've had to change that around. Now, then season 6 and 7, when they've not got the book, they had to change it. And it's effectively a made-for-TV drama based on George R.R. Martin's stories. And you can go one or two ways with this. You can either say, you know what, that's not sticking to the stories, and that's not like George R. R. Martin, and that's entirely fine. You can do it, and that's right. Or you could say, you know what, this still looks pretty blooming amazing. Love the way this is. This is. It's still one of, if not the best thing on TV at the moment, and just enjoy it for what it is. So this is their baby. They've done it. George R. R. Martin's been very clear. His books are a separate thing to the TV show now. Let them do it. Let them finish their vision. Don't try and give somebody else a job. But at least, as long as they at least restore Tyrion to the wonderful character that he used to be. That's the only thing I want.
I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a lot of redemptions for the cripples, bastards, and broken things. We were talking about that earlier. Obviously, who we thought was going to survive. We both talked about the possibility of Sansa and Tyrion. ruling in place of Jon and Daenerys. You think that it's possible that Jon and Daenerys might go into exile if one of them is still around, living without the other, kind of living out a different life than what they had imagined being king or queen, which is really interesting too. Do we want to take some? Did you have any questions from patrons or from the chat? I didn't get any from my patrons. Everybody seemed to be pretty busy today. But anybody, do we want to take a Q&A session, Robert?
Yeah, happy to do Q&A.
All right, let's do that. And everybody, if you are enjoying the video, like I said, make sure you go to the description of this video and click on Robert's channel, In Deep Geek. He does really awesome analysis on Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. And if you like what we're talking about here, smash that like button and support the channel. Really, really appreciate if you could do that. Okay, let's go see. George says Sansa will be ended up married to Gendry. That's an interesting thought. We haven't really talked about Gendry at all. I mean, what do we think? What happens with him? I don't know. Does he make a special sword? Is he, emissary for Hus Baratheon?
Am I allowed to say I don't care? I mean, Gendry for me, he's an amalgam of 2 or possibly even 3 characters in the books. So I don't think he, as a character in the show, is that important. Yeah, I think he could easily, if they go back to the old system at the end of it, they could easily drop him back in and start a new House Baratheon through him. I think that's entirely fine. But I think bringing him back was as much fan service as anything else.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know about Gendry, man. There's some pretty wicked theories that he's Robert's trueborn heir with Cersei.
He's not my trueborn heir. Sorry.
No, I don't think so. People are really pretty hype about you being here, man. They're really fake news. Oh shit, people are calling us out. That's pretty funny. There's another question here. Okay, so here's a really good question. Alpin Tiger. Okay, I got that. Fun. Cripples, bastards, and broken things. First 2 seem obvious, but who do you put in the broken category? I mean, geez, Sansa. Sansa's pretty broken. Tyrion's been through a lot of shit, man. Shay killing his dad. Oh man, Tysha, he's pretty broken. Samla, John qualifies as one of the broken things, but I mean Tyrion because he's a dwarf and because of what's happened to him, I think it's Tyrion is the most broken thing. I don't know. Could be Sansa though.
I mean, I think there are a couple of really clearly for me it's the people who've been, whoever they thought they were, just got broken down and they've had to start again. And so you get Theon for me as a huge example of this. He got completely broken and he's had to build himself back up. Sandor the Hound, again, even more in the books when it's like he's dead and assuming he's dead in the books. He's got to bring himself. He's brought himself back again. So I think there are a lot of people, and in a way, even I think Arya and Sansa, you could claim that who they thought they were has been broken, and they've got to bring themselves back again. So it's the broken things are the people who are not. Even Jaime, I think, is probably a good example. He and actually, complete tangent. Excuse me. So I can't remember where I saw or read this, but it really struck me as being a fascinating thing about the Lannisters. Oh no, it was an Alt Shift X video. So it was Jaime. The thing that he self-identified as was a great swordsman, the greatest swordsman in the land. He thought he was, and then his hand got chopped off, and so he has had to build himself back up from that point. Cersei has what she self-identified with was her beauty and her ability to do stuff, and then with her walk of shame, that was like she had to build herself back up from that. And that the video that I was talking about was all about, so what does Tyrion self-identify as? Well, he's about the person with the clever words, and there's a lot of foreshadowing in the books about people saying to him, you watch out for that tongue because someone will cut it out one day. and I'll leave it there. So
There's some people think that Euron's going to be. I mean, especially with the Forsaken chapter that came out, there was that vision that Euron had when he was drinking Shade of the Evening and saw Euron dancing around with skulls and dwarves and all sorts of crazy shit.
Yeah. But with the broken things. And Bran again was the example. That was the another thing. He self-identified. He was climbing all the time, and then he suddenly he couldn't climb anymore. So what could he do? He had to become a new person, a new thing. So there's a lot of characters, and those we mentioned it earlier in this. Those are the characters I think who are most likely to survive. The people who are going to see the end of this are the broken people who've been broken by what's happened in the story, and they rebuilt themselves, and then they're going to move on.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, man. Like, the Theons and the Jaimes, and the Bran is another one. He's paralyzed. I mean, he always wanted to be a knight, but he got to become the three-eyed raven, which is really interesting. So there's a lot of really, really good possibilities, for sure. Sansa's a little bit different. I see some of you in the chat saying Sansa in the book and the show are quite different. Sansa hasn't been raped in the books. That's correct. So there's definitely a few angles that we can look at. And I mean, people like Samwell and Tyrion kind of writing the history books at the end of the story, like a Bilbo Baggins scenario, or picking up the pieces in the end, kind of letting everyone know what transpired during this period. Is going to be really interesting. Some people are asking about my tattoo. No, this is the same tattoo. If you can see, people, no new ink, same one. Okay, we got some more questions in the chat. Some people don't like Yara, apparently. Tyrion with no tongue, that would be really bittersweet. Thank you, Ryan, for showing up, and thank you everyone in the chat. Yeah, we got Euron Greyjoy in the chat. Stannis was broken in the show. That's interesting. Euron is pretty crazy. He's got a broken mind, that's for sure. Okay, Rob, how about you ask a question to the chat? How about that? That would be pretty interesting. I want to kind of see where we go in this one.
Okay, well, let's go on the Euron thing then. So when do you think Euron is going to reappear in season 8, and what's he going to do?
Well, I mean, probably episode 1. We're probably going to get like half King's Landing, half Winterfell, right? I mean, we're going to see the Golden Company, I'm assuming. That could be who Daenerys is burning in King's Landing, by the way, is the Golden Company with her dragons, if it all turns out to be true. I think it's episode 1 he returns to the Golden Company, man, because I'm assuming that we're going to be back at Winterfell when Jon and Daenerys arrive there, and then we're going to be kind of picking up with what Cersei, because Jaime left Cersei and we didn't really see much of her after that.
So do you think, so at some point, Theon is going to launch some kind of commando raid to try and get Yara back? That's just, at some point that's going to happen. Do you think he's going to be doing that out at sea? Is he going to be trying to take on a Euron out at sea, or somewhere else? When's that going to happen?
See, this all kind of really depends on what you were talking about earlier. If Cersei goes down before the Night King, I mean, I could see the big battle in King's Landing maybe happening first, or does it happen after? Like, does Theon survive the war with the others? Like, maybe they're split up into 2 battles. You know what I'm saying? Like, Daenerys and Jon split up their forces to go deal with King's Landing because they know they need to secure it. Something like that. I don't know. I'm so confused on that one, though. It's like, I really don't know what to think, because I want to say yeah. I want to say yeah. I mean, Theon. The chat he had with Jon, right? I mean, he's Theon the latecomer. It'll be the final season, but he'll finally get his balls back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the thing about Euron is that deep down we all think he's going to somehow betray Cersei. Is that he's got something else going on, surely, because in the books he's such a badass, and on the show, yeah, he's been bad, but he's not been quite the same character. So surely there's going to be something else he's going to be doing in the book, on the show.
I mean, in the books, he's for sure a third act villain. I mean, like him and Cersei, like in the books, he's like trying to become the great other himself. Like he's so deranged with his warped view of reality. I mean, he's taking all sorts of substances to alter his consciousness and and whatnot. So he's kind of on like the same level of magical as Bran almost in the books, right? But he's like he's obviously more mobile than Bran. He's doing a little bit more, obviously, with the Forsaken chapter. I mean, with Euron and Thalia Flowers, he cuts out the girl who he got pregnant. He cuts out her tongue and ties her to the mast of the ship, which is just insane. And then he's got like all the other priests tied up, which is pretty crazy. Do you think that, I mean, are we going to see Euron anymore? Are we going to see him doing something really bad to Yara? I mean, are they going to do that whole Sansa scenario over again, but with Euron and Yara? That would be, I mean, that would be kind of, they kind of already pulled that off.
I think Theon will somehow get Yara out and find out that her tongue has been cut out, because it's such a thing that Euron does. I can't imagine that he won't have done it. And she didn't say anything in that whole bit of season 7 when she was being the captive. So I think her tongue will have been cut out. And I do wonder whether this is like, in terms of the kind of the back to the theme of the cripples, bastards, and broken things, whether those two could rule together on the Iron Islands. She's not got a tongue. He's been castrated. Perhaps they could just rule together as a, neither of them feel complete in and of themselves, but together maybe they do.
That's what George has kind of said. I thought that Theon and Yara, like, I mean, Yara can obviously have we're assuming she can have children, right? That would be a pretty interesting scenario. I don't know. I see Theon doing something really badass. I mean, he's screwed up so many times. I mean, I think that's the only direction where he can kind of go. I mean, he's disappointed so many people already, right? I mean, that's the kind of thing too. I mean, where are we going to be surprised? I mean, we've known these characters and we've seen them in their nature for the better part of 7 seasons, but where they end up is going to be kind of completely opposite of where they started, like you said, with Jaime, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for Theon, imagine him surviving the whole series after what he's been through. Like, that never would have crossed people's minds. Like, oh yeah, he's never going to survive Ramsay, becoming Reek like that. I mean, the Smeagol of the Song of Ice and Fire, basically. So yeah. Theon is a great choice for someone that's definitely broken. I mean, can't use his toy anymore. We got some pretty awesome comments in the chat. Somebody said that Euron will be killed by the Golden Company. That's pretty interesting. Do we think that the Golden Company is going to make a big impact, Rich? I mean, obviously, Rich, Robert, sorry, my bad. I was reading another comment in the comment section. Do we think that, because I mean, the Blackfires battle the Targaryens, and obviously the Golden Company in the books is supporting Fagon, who I believe to be fake Aegon, and many people do. What are your thoughts on that in the show? Is it like they're just going to be deployed by Cersei and Euron just to have someone to battle Daenerys? Is that it?
I mean, I think so. I mean, we got to figure out what the main plot for the first couple of episodes is going to be in the north with all the stuff going on. But Cersei's going to be doing something. And really the thing that she's going to be doing is trying to establish her position in the south. So all I can imagine is that she's going to just take over all of the areas in the south with the Golden Company. So I assume the Golden Company will come there. She's going to use them as her new fighting force because a lot of her Lannister soldiers got, toasted by the dragon. So I think they'll just go and capture loads of castles in the south. I think that's basically what's going to happen with them. And then Dany will turn around and come back and attack them.
That's going to be really interesting too, because what were the numbers that they said about? Were they 10,000 or 15,000? I think it was 10,000, right?
I thought it was 20,000, but I might have got that wrong.
20,000. Well, that would be really interesting. That would be a huge number.
I think that the thing which they might go with in the south, which I would find fascinating, is the moment that they lingered on Qyburn in the dragon pit when he was holding up the hand of the white, and he was like, that's interesting, because his entire life, they've not majored on it in the show, but his entire life has been about how do we defeat death? How do we conquer death? And this is why he was doing the experiments on the mountain. Is he now suddenly, having seen what a white looks like, going to be able to produce more of these like undead in the south? That's the thing that I will find interesting, whether they go down that route.
Because it's really, I mean, he was fascinated by the hand, and we know that the mountain is kind of like a form of necromancy. I mean, we don't know the exact methods of how the mountain is still walking around, but he's basically a zombie, right? I mean, he seems to have some sort of free will, but really he kind of has half of his free will almost, you know what I mean? Like he's alive, but being controlled. I mean, I don't know if we'll necessarily get the answer on what's going on with that, but I mean, that's certainly a possibility too. And, you know, some people were talking about, you know, Cersei. You think that Cersei could, you know, there's an off chance that you could get a dragon, which would be absolutely batshit. I mean, she's the Mad Queen. The Mad King. She's the Mad Queen. I think she could become that. That would be really interesting. That would be super shitty if Cersei got a dragon. I don't know if there's enough time to do that, or if that's a thing that could happen.
I think the 3 dragon riders, Dany, the Night King, and Jon.
Yeah, the 3 riders, the 3 heads of the dragon. That's so interesting how that turned out, right? The Night King getting it. Well, maybe Bran. Maybe Bran could be the other one if he wargs one. That would be interesting. Certainly, okay. Cersei is not mad. Fake news. I think I disagree with you there. She's absolutely crazy. That's fake news. What you're saying. Fake news. I don't know what I mean. Does the Cleganebowl happen too? Some people are saying the Cleganebowl's got to go down. I mean, I think if it happens, it's going to need to be multiple people, like Arya, the Hound, and Jaime, or something like that. Like 3 people, like a small group sneaks into King's Landing and they try to get rid of Cersei.
Yeah. So both of those 2, Arya and the Hound, both whenever they finish doing what they're doing in the north, are heading south. So. I mean, and this fits in with what we've been saying about Dany. After doing stuff in the north, is going to head south. This is what's going to happen: is that Arya's got her kill list, and on the show, the only 2 real people left are Cersei and the Mountain. So she's going to be heading back down south. The Hound, when he confronted the Mountain and said, "You know who's coming for you. You've always known that." I know people have speculated lots of things. He was talking about himself. He's going to come back down for the Mountain as well. So you're going to get this whole load of people heading down south, trying to take out the powers that be in King's Landing. And yeah, Arya will do it perhaps with the Hound.
Yeah, that would be super interesting, man. I mean, I think it has to go down now. I mean, we don't know if Sandor is going to have that type of impact in the books. I'm assuming he's the gravedigger. That's there's foreshadowing for that. There's a dog running around, and his horse Stranger is there, and at the Quiet Isle, they never say he's dead. They say he is at rest. So there's a few things to kind of go that way. Or I don't know if the Cleganebowl is going to happen in the books, but it's always this thing like, will Sandor be able to completely move on without addressing that situation? I don't think so, because they showed us that last season it's obviously still on his mind, right? So that's going to be an interesting thing, and maybe Jon sends a little party there with Arya and them. That would be really interesting.
Well, with Sandor, if you actually just stop and analyze that moment with him in the Mountain, this was like, if anything had gone wrong in that situation, there were dragons, there was a fleet, there was an army, there were people who didn't like each other meeting up in power. It was complete tinderbox, that situation. If something had gone wrong, then the entire continent would have been at war. And he risked all of that just to go and confront his brother.
I love Sandor so fucking much, man. I love Sandor so much. Everybody in the chat, put up your hands if you love Sandor. I can't get enough of the guy, man. Oh my god. I'm assuming that we're gonna get a Tormund Sandor. I hope Tormund survives. I would love to see Tormund and Sandor together again, doing some like Gimli, Legolas type fighting with the whites or something like that. Here's another thing. Do you think we get more moments like that are cherry picked from Lord of the Rings? Because obviously we have the Battle of the Bastards, and we had the Knights of the Vale, kind of like the Riders of Rohan situation, those kinds of things, and then we have 1-1 and Jon and them all running towards like Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn. We're doing in the Two Towers. Do you think we get some of those moments in season 8, more like Lord of the Rings-esque moments?
Yeah, but I mean, I think season 8 is going to be its own thing. They're gonna try and create a new. I mean, I love all of the Lord of the Rings analogies, but this is deliberately a different thing, and I think the showrunners are going to try and create a new thing, going to create new visuals. Yeah, they're going to have the buddy moments because the buddy moments are fun, and like Tormund and Sandor, they're going to like form a comedy double act and like tour around Westeros. This is going to be great, but it's about the visuals. It's about a new thing that they're going to create.
Yeah, man. And there's all these memes behind Cleganebowl, but let's be honest, if it happened, it would be one of the best fights in the whole series of the show. I'm assuming it would be. I mean, the mountains. How do you kill that? I'm assuming that the mountain would have to burn him, use fire, right? That would be kind of like a coming full circle situation for him. And Sandor has kind of been kissed by fire. I mean, I saw that he had some visions with the Lord, in the flames, and they found the mountain with the arrowhead beyond the wall. So I think his story is, I think he dies protecting one of the Stark girls, probably Arya. That's my guess. But I hope he survives, man. He's my fave. So. Let's see. There's a couple more questions in the chat. We'll take a couple more. I know it's pretty late for you, Robert. It's like, what, 11 p.m. there now?
Yeah, it's midnight now.
So it's midnight. So we're going to take a few more questions, guys. Really appreciate Robert coming. Once again, if you haven't checked out this channel, Indie Geek, description of this video. Robert, can you tell us a little bit again about what you like to do on your channel?
Yeah, so I do in-depth analysis of Game of Thrones. I'm going to work on some Westworld stuff in the new year as well, because I love Westworld. I think I recommend it for any Game of Thrones fan who's just like looking for something to get them through for the next year or so. So I'll be doing some Westworld, but what I try and do is get beyond the obvious, beyond just the simple fan stuff, and actually try and get to grips with the story, with the characters, with the lore behind it, and try and get into the depth of what it is and treat it like the sort of the quality literature that the books are, and also the great TV that the show is. So that's what we're doing. Said about Patreon, because something I'm doing on Patreon right now is I'm narrating for my patrons the pre-release chapters from Winds of Winter. So I'm going through them one by one and just narrating. There like 8 or 9 of them now that we've got out there, public domain stuff, and I'm narrating them as a thank you for my patrons.
That's awesome, man. I need to start. I do like little FaceTime videos, and I kind of let everybody know what's coming next for the channel, and I talk about some thoughts of what's going on in news and stuff like that. But I've always wanted to kind of do more for Patreon, because the people from Patreon have been so generous in helping out the channel and helping me kind of achieve Con of Thrones and stuff like that, which has been absolutely fantastic. I guess so you're going to do some Westworld. Actually, me and Phil, the Issues guy, and also George have been talking about some Star Wars and some Song of Ice and Fire. Me and Phil can't really wait for that either. I know you're a Star Wars fan too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I cannot wait. I'm going on the 15th, going to go there, 3D glasses, front row, just you can't stop me. I love it.
Yeah, me and Phil, the Issues guy, have been talking, and I'm like, hey, man, we need to do a podcast together, because he's like a huge movie buff, and he's been like covering different TV shows and stuff like that, and I'm really, really excited for that movie. And then also I'm gonna cover. I got a video I'm gonna be working on this weekend, the Marvel Infinity Wars trailer. I'm like a huge fan of the comics. There's so much that went on in that specific video. I think there's a major big death happening in that movie. I think
that's the kind of video I want to watch, because I mean I know the comics, and I saw the trailer and I thought, I don't know how these match up. I need someone who knows this inside out. So yeah, definitely watch that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, if you're a fan of Marvel, that's gonna be their pinnacle achievement of what they've been working for towards 20 years. That Infinity War saga is just the best. I mean, everybody getting together, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, all those characters just getting together to fight the Mad Titan Thanos. It's interesting too because they revealed a lot in that trailer where he's getting a couple of the gems, man. Like, I don't know, and Captain America looks crazy, and Spider-Man looks like he's getting his ass kicked. So I'm excited to see because I know how the story goes in the comics. So I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read the comics. It's pretty crazy. So,
but also in the Marvel universe, this is quite a big moment because this is probably the last film for a lot of those big characters, for the actors playing those characters, and they're going to be focusing a lot after this on a lot of the new, say they're not new characters, but the characters that haven't had film franchises so far, like Black Panther and people like that. So this really is the culmination of all of those Avengers films leading up to this big finale. So I mean, I'm really excited for that.
Well, the Phase 3 is ending, and then the Phase 4 is coming, right? Where there's like Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange 2,
Exactly,
you know, all these other movies like the Inhumans and all. Like, I mean, I'm assuming they're getting a second Spider-Man, and all those movies, and then. That's going to be really interesting to kind of see where they go. Like, are they doing an Iron Man 4? Or again, they're going to do a Thor 4? Are they going to do a Captain America 4? So it's going to be really crazy to kind of see where they go with all these directions. These movies. We're going to get back to A Song of Ice and Fire, though. I know you guys are here to see that. But damn, I am excited for some of these new movies and shows that are coming out. Let's see what else we got here. I got to catch up on Vikings too. That one I have saved. I'm like 15 episodes behind. I don't know if you watched that one, Robert, but it's pretty good.
I watched the first few episodes of season 1, and I had like one of those 3-month passes on the UK channel that runs it, and then I kind of lost track of it, and I thought it looked really good, but then I haven't watched any more than first half of season 1, but I hear great things about it.
It's very, very good.
I'll tell you the thing that I'm really looking forward to that I had no idea how many people know about. It's quite well known in the UK. It's Black Mirror. Season 4 is going to be out on Netflix at some point in the next few weeks. It's an amazing series. It's sci-fi, but it's like incredibly intelligently written single dramas in the kind of the way that like the old sort of Twilight Zone kind of things, with each episode completely new scenario, completely new actors, completely new director, just addressing an issue. And it is so well done. I mean, so many of them, some of them are like slightly disconcerting, some of them make you a little bit queasy, but they always make you think about what is the impact of technology on our society today. So I'd look out for it. The first 3 seasons are on Netflix at the moment. Black Mirror, go check it out. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I finished binging a couple different shows like The Punisher and stuff like that were really good. And The Expanse and some other shows, Narcos. Well, Game of Thrones is coming back because, you know, I mean, we only get 10 episodes anyways. Well, 7 episodes last season. So it is kind of hard with that way. So, I mean, I do watch like 20 other shows. But yeah, man. Let's get a couple more questions in here, Robert, and then we're going to take off. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, here tonight. It's been really fun. Everybody's been really fun in the chat. You guys are having a good time, which is awesome, and seem to be enjoying the discussion. So Q&A. Who will be the first major character to die and the last major character to die? That's a really good question. I think the first major one, oh, man. I bet you there's going to be a shocking big one in the first episode. I don't think it's going to be Davos, like you said. It's possibly one of those kind of characters, but maybe someone like a Grey Worm, Tormund. That'd be interesting. No, I think those guys got to make it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one will be one of those characters that they're not needed, like Missandei or Grey Worm, and so Tormund. One of the characters who they're not a complete end game. They've been really useful up to this point, but you're not really sort of caught up in their story. The last one, I think, could be Cersei.
The last one is Cersei, eh? I'm gonna go with this. Ooh, I think Danny's gonna die. She definitely won't die in the first episode. I think that Danny's gonna die. She could be the last one, and it could be a big one. I think the last one to die will be Danny or Bran. And the first one, ooh, it's gonna be a tough one. I think all the rest of the Starks survive except for maybe Bran. I think both the girls survive. Brienne, maybe a Brienne.
Oh, no, not Brienne. Surely, I think she will. I think Jaime will die before she dies. I really think. I mean,
you think Jaime 100% dies? Both him and Cersei die, right? They both have to, right?
I can't see them. I mean, Jaime would only survive if he's completely broken. That's the only way I see it. No, I mean, I think they will actually ease us in with a few characters that we don't care so much about. So maybe like someone like Ed, or you know, a character that we've known for quite a while, but it doesn't actually matter if they die. We're not going to cry too much about it.
Like a Grey Worm or something.
And then when we actually get the real big battle, so episode 1 is going to be like this big meeting, like all of the words, you're a Targaryen, all that rubbish. Then episode 2 or 3 will be big battles or siege or whatever of Winterfell. Then we'll start getting some casualties.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be. I mean, I don't know if they'll do a battle in Winterfell in the first episode. I mean, maybe the Night King flies there. Could be like an end of an episode thing. That would be pretty insane. I mean, we only get 6 episodes left. I mean, they got to start doing something.
Well, I mean, the people who are going to die, you've got Varys is going to die. Melisandre's going to die. I mean, there's a lot of people who've got to go.
Yeah, Varys could be won by Dragonfire. I mean,
well, he's going to. I mean, coming back to what I was saying earlier, he's going to betray Dany at some point. Probably like when he with Tyrion, so he goes, "Hey, hang on a moment. There's a slightly better Targaryen over here. Let's go with that one."
That's an interesting thought too. You know what I was just thinking is you said Melisandre. Does she come back with the Order of the Fiery Hand from the Red Temple of Volantis? Is that where she's gone? Or is she still in Westeros? Like, I can't wrap my mind around that one. I made a video about her possibly getting the 1,001 soldiers from Volantis, but I don't know. They haven't really done an inclusion in that in the show. So
they've not mentioned that at all. I mean, maybe, but only because it'll look cool. I mean, I can't really see it. They should do, because they're certainly in the books, the whole Church of Rahilor should be thinking, hang on a moment, we need to put everything behind this. So yeah, they should, but they've not mentioned it. So no, I don't know.
Some people are saying Jorah and Beric are both great choices to die first in the first episode. Beric is a good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have no idea why he survived last season, I have to say. Yeah, he should be gone.
And I think we're going to end it on this question. This is a really awesome one, Robert. Loki has been, we see Loki and Thor, but I think there's a lot of Norse mythology in a Game of Thrones with Jormungand, the serpent that encircles the world, kind of represents what Daenerys. We have, obviously Odin, the one eye, kind of like Blood Raven in the books, a little bit different in the show, but the three-eyed raven. Do you think in the show, is it possible that the Night King is tricking Bran, like a Loki type scenario? Some people think that the Night King could be manipulating Bran, or somehow is Bran being tricked into helping the Night King? Kind of that kind of situation. I don't personally think so, but
trick to do what? I mean, I certainly think in that first way back when they're in Three-Eyed Raven's cave, and then Bran goes out in his vision and he's like walks up to the Night King, and then the Night King turns around and grabs him. Yeah, the Night King was playing him there. I get that absolutely. But since then, I don't know what's he trying to do. Bran has been last season. Bran was pretty rubbish, to be honest.
He was, but here's the thing, right? He's got that mark on his arm. He went flying north of the wall with the ravens. The Night King knew that they were there.
Yeah.
So they were all standing there with spears. It seemed like they were pretty ready for some dragons to come, right? So how did they come about that information? That's really interesting. Some people are talking about that, like, hey, like Bran, like kind of like a Harry Potter and Voldemort type of situation. That's a great point, Elizabeth. He made that in the video. I talked about that in the video before, where indirectly he's like leading them to everyone. You know what I mean? It's like
my best guess is that the Night King caught Sandor's vision in the flames of a battle, and he saw what was happening and thought, well, I'm going to stay here and wait for the dragons. That's what I think happened.
Some people think that the Night King is Bran. I don't believe that at all. Like maybe he could become the next Night King and lead the White Walkers into the lands of always winter in like some sort of pact scenario or something. I don't think they can like. I guess because of some of the interesting comments from Isaac Hempstead, right? He talked about how, the three-eyed raven could be like, Bran. You know what I mean? Like Bran, like kind of like another reincarnation of Bran. You know what I mean? Like an older Bran.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think it's going to get that complicated for the show specifically. It could be a little bit more complicated in the books where it gets like pretty crazy. I really hope that there's like no like paradoxes where like the Night King is Bran in the show. You know what I mean? Like they're both coexisting in one timeline. I just don't see how that makes sense for me.
No, I mean, I think the Night King is a Stark. I don't think he needs to be Bran, and I don't think it makes much sense for him to be Bran, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I mean, I can't see that it actually improves the story in any way. I really don't.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I mean, we talked about the Night King's motivations earlier, and the White Walkers' motivations. Maybe they are trying to become un-White Walkers. They're trying to be human again. They need to get to like somewhere like the Isle of the Faces. Next from Game of Theories has some great thoughts on that. I've always thought that maybe Howland Reed would be there, and that's where we find him and Bran goes there, and they figure out how to kind of undo this situation and kind of end this whole big. Because I mean, it all really started with the Children of the Forest and that, right? I mean, their trees are being cut down, and some people can view that as another form, their form of afterlife, if you kind of want to go there. So it's possible that we may go up, we may get that. I think we're going to get that information for sure.
I think we will. I mean, in the books, yeah, it's all about the Isle of Faces in the books. I'm sure about it. I think that's where they're heading. On the show, what they're after is clearly to do with their creation. It's to do with the Children of the Forest. That's why they've been making this symbol. That's the only bit of communication they've been giving us. That's the moment that they could kill some White Walkers. Some Children of the Forest. They did it. I think that's clearly what their focus. It's not on humans. It's not on just trying to kill lots of people. They're trying to get some revenge, or they're trying to undo something, or something along those lines.
And it's interesting. George makes a great comment in the chat here. He says, "Well, only one of them was made with dragon glass, the Night King. So he's unique in the sense where he can." I think what George is trying to get at is he's created the other White Walkers, because we see him touch the baby and turn the eyes blue, so maybe he's the only one. I'm assuming if they're going to make the Night King super powerful, that he's the only one that has that ability, and kind of everyone just serves him, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's going to be super interesting. We talked about a lot of Season 8 stuff tonight. How about this, Robert? We got a lot of questions in the chat. I know it's super late for you. How about we do another one of these sessions maybe next week or something, and we kind of go over some of the questions that we missed and something like that?
Sounds great. Love it.
And any final kind of thoughts? I know we talked about the Season 8 news. Any kind of final thoughts on what we discussed here this evening, and for people in the chat?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's been really fun. I've just been watching all of the questions and comments coming through. I mean, it's a shame we've not managed to pick up on all of these. saw quite a few of my patrons actually just flick through, and I meant to say hi to them. So hi guys, great to see you here. So it's been really good fun.
And yeah, it's been really fun. I see originals like Halcyon. He's got some great content. He's going to be coming back to YouTube at some point. He dives into the hero's journey and Loki and all sorts of Norse mythology. I see people who are just purely show watchers. Some people that are more into the books. It's really cool. That looks like we had a lot of people from all over the place here in the chat. I know some people were from the UK and they were cheering UK in the chat. They're really excited that you were here. I know Gemma couldn't make it this evening. She tried to be with us. She's doing her thing. I don't want to really go into it too much, but there's something going on with her family, so we wish her well. So we love you, Gemma. We hope to have you back here soon. And but it's been really fun, man. Like I said, I haven't been doing as many live streams. We really had fun having you on the channel during the season and having different guests on. Like I said, we were going to have Phil, the issues guy, on at some point, maybe this weekend, but early next week. Maybe he can join us next week. That would be kind of cool to have an even bigger panel to kind of bounce off each other. Robert kind of plays the devil's advocate with me because I'm more of the positive one, and then Robert will give his more expert opinion as well. Thank you so much for joining tonight, Robert. Like I said, everybody, if you haven't gone to check out his channel, description of this video is super easy. Click on the link, go subscribe. Really, really nice content. One of the nicer guys in the community as well. And I'm sure you can find something to keep you kind of going through the long night, as 2019 is quite a ways away for everyone in the chat. So thank you for all the donations. Thank you for coming, everyone. If you do have some questions that you would like posed in the next Q&A, I'll get to some of them in a video this week. Let's say Friday, I'll do like a live stream during the day, and then next week I'll save some for some of the juicier ones to kind of bounce off for Robert's opinion. But thanks again, everyone. We're going to sign off. Hype and love, and everybody take care and have a awesome Game of Thrones filled day tomorrow. 7 blessings.
Take care.